Okay, so what has changed? We have expanded the advisory area. They did that overnight to include a little bit more of Southeast Texas, uh, given the possibility of some light icing as this band of wintry precip moves slowly from northwest to southeast across Southeast Texas. And we'll show you more of that in a moment. As I said, the winter weather advisory was expanded. We also added a few counties in the northwest to the winter storm warning, where the icing appears to be more significant. As expected, much colder and windy today, with mostly rain in the southeast. We've actually had a little bit of a break here down around Houston and points south. Did have some rain earlier, and that rain has changed to freezing rain and some sleet for our northwest counties as expected. So the forecast is sort of playing out that we talked about yesterday. As we spoke of yesterday, there is this hint in the models of some light freezing rain and sleet kind of holding together in a band and progressing further into southeast Texas, including the Houston area, perhaps even into inland portions of the coastal counties. And as we've talked about, no surprise, cold, low temperatures and winds will create pretty dangerous wind chills as we get into tonight, and that really cold condition continuing really through tomorrow and tomorrow night. Although not as extreme as February 2021, by a long shot, this is a fairly significant event. So here's a look at the latest warning and advisory map. You can see for our forecast area, the counties of Houston, Madison, Grimes, Brazos, Burleson, and Washington are in the warning, and Grimes and Washington having been added today. That's where we're seeing freezing rain now, and we would expect some ice to build up in those areas. Perhaps greater than 1/8 of an inch of ice accretion, and probably less than 1/4 inch though in those areas. So we would expect to see some icing on objects and some slick spots, especially on elevated roadways, bridges, and overpasses. And then further to the southeast, you see all those counties in the advisory. In those areas, we still expect changeover from rain to freezing rain and sleet, but the amounts will be less, really less than a 1/10 of an inch in general. And there is more uncertainty as you go farther southeast through that advisory area and all the way to the coast, both in the fact that the band is weakening and you're right around freezing for a time. But we'll talk more about that in a moment. Other warnings and advisories, the wind chill advisory you can see there for most of the area. That's for wind chills. Our criteria is 13 or below would warrant a wind chill advisory. It's going to be cold and windy everywhere, and everyone's going to have to really dress appropriately if they have to be outside. Hard freeze warning, this is for the danger of pipes freezing. And in that dark purple area, that's where we're looking at lows in the lower 20s, even around 20. And that's where we could see some issues with any exposed pipes. As far as freezing rain and ice forecast, this actually includes today and tonight. So some of this has already fallen in the northwest, but you can see in the orange areas, that's where we expect, as we've been talking about, the greater amounts of icing, and then lesser amounts as you go further to the southeast, where we're talking about in the yellow area between 1/100th of an inch and 1/10 of an inch. But as we know, it doesn't take much to create icy conditions. So that's really what we're dealing with here. A weakening band of precipitation and temperatures falling below freezing could create some icy patches even further southeast than we talked about yesterday. Here's a look at current conditions as of about 30 minutes ago. And you can see the freezing line extends from near Crockett to Magnolia to Columbus. Everywhere north of there, we're looking at freezing rain and temperatures in some areas in the upper 20s to around 30. There's also some sleet falling, ice pellets falling in that area also, and that's where we are starting to get the icing building up as forecast. And then you see over coastal areas, we've had a little bit of a break. We had rain this morning and then somewhat of a break, as we had talked about previously also. But that band to our northwest for folks down in Houston and Point South is gradually sagging south, as is the freezing line. And so what about road conditions? It's a pretty dramatic map here, drivetexas.org. You can see, once you get a certain distance into that cold air, say 30 degrees or below, you're having really serious road issues. And so anyone traveling to the northwest, be very wary of this. Just really unsafe driving conditions as you get just to the northwest of where we are. And we would expect some issues probably starting about now in the Bryan-College Station area, Burleson County, and so on. And some of that iciness will start to, as I say, progress further southeast into our forecast area. So let's kind of walk through things. This is this weather model we've been showing the last few days, the HER model, and this is actually what it's forecasting for now. And it's actually pretty accurate. On the left-hand side, you can see some rain showers in the southeast and a band of mostly freezing rain to the northwest, and a little bit of rain at the leading edge. That's actually pretty accurate from what we just saw. Freezing line, as we said, from about Crockett down to Columbus. So this model is actually pretty accurate as well as far as that goes. And if we step it forward, this is 6 p.m. You can see that band of freezing rain making it further to the southeast, so now impacting some other counties, as is the freezing line. You can see they kind of go in tandem. On the right-hand side, you can see that freezing line, which is the dividing line between the green and the blue on this map, getting into Harris County by 6 p.m. this evening. Western Harris then below freezing at that time. And you can see other areas too, like Wharton County, 30 degrees. So this is different than the last time when the cold air did not make it that far south. In this case, we're getting that cold air, and we also have this band of precipitation falling in the cold air. So that is why we are expecting some icing in all of these areas. By 10 p.m. tonight, notice that band of precipitation appears to be thinning and dissipating somewhat, with the freezing line now through most of Harris and even into Brazoria County, and then down to the coast near Matagorda County and Jackson County. So now the cold air is in place, but we're starting to lose that precipitation a little bit. Still, very possible we could be getting light freezing rain or freezing drizzle even at this time in those areas. And notice even by 4 a.m. Friday, everyone is pretty much below freezing except perhaps Chambers and Eastern Liberty County. And this model is still hanging on to a kind of a band of freezing rain or freezing drizzle right at the coast. Now, this is actually outside our advisory area. And I want to say not all the models have this feature, but we think, it could be, it could occur, that we could get some very light precipitation even down to the coast, very late tonight and first thing Friday. But that is still very uncertain as far as, that part of the forecast is probably the most uncertain. Is do we get freezing precipitation at the coast, toward daybreak tomorrow or after midnight tonight? So if confidence increases in that feature, it's even possible we may expand the advisory down to the coast for these very light amounts of freezing rain and icing. These are just very similar values to what we've briefed the last few days. So again, cold, not really warming up much tomorrow in the northwest. Right now our highs are forecast to be mid-30s. It may struggle to get above freezing up there tomorrow. And then cold again Friday night. Wind chills, won't belabor this too much. We've been briefing it for a couple days now. Very cold and windy tonight. Still cold tomorrow, despite some sunshine. And cold again Friday night. And again, now we have a gale warning. We have gale conditions ongoing gust to gale force out there over the marine waters, with some rough bay waters and seas of 8 to 13 feet. And our tide levels are coming down, so we likely will see some impacts. So some low tide levels, not as low as some of our other blowout tide events, but below zero. Negative tides near times of low tide. So there could be some navigation concerns. So just to sum up all of this, the forecast seems to be playing out more or less as expected, with falling temps and rain changing to freezing rain from northwest to southeast. A period of freezing rain and sleet will create icing conditions in those northwest counties, especially in that warned area. Very highly confident of that. It's occurring now. But there are some icy patches possible farther to the southeast in that now expanded advisory area due to this persistent band of freezing rain progressing south along with the sub-freezing temperatures, sort of in tandem. So look for that icy patch concern. Not as much ice accretion as going on in the warning area, but still perhaps enough to create some icy conditions. The far southeastern portion of the advisory and the immediate coastal areas, probably the most uncertain part of this forecast. Precipitation is going to be very light, we think, if it does occur, and temperatures closer to freezing. But even there, icy patches are possible. It's just not, we're quite as confident with that part of the forecast. And this is the last webinar we have planned for this event. We will continue to push out information by email and social media. So please stay tuned to that. So I'm going to go ahead and stop.